Hi, this is Delegate Patrick Hope, and I want to welcome you back to week 3 of my legislative update from Richmond, where I highlight major issues covered during the week. This has been another busy and partisan week at the Capitol. The Republican-controlled House passed Governor Youngkin's tax cuts, primarily for the benefit of corporations and the state's top income bracket earners. Republicans also passed legislation on a party line vote to allow localities to ban certain books in public schools. And finally, the House took up measures to making voting more difficult in Virginia. First, Virginia House Republicans have embraced Governor Youngkin's $1 billion tax cut, earmarked primarily for corporations and the state's top income earners, along with higher deductions. Some of the elements included in the bill would cut Virginia's top tax rate from 5.75% to 5.5%. and include an increase in the standard tax deduction from $8,000 to $9,000 for single filers and $16,000 to $18,000 for joint returns. The Republican plan would also cut corporate tax rate from 6% to 5% and provides expanded tax deductions for certain businesses. That would mean a loss of $362 million in revenue from corporations over the next 2 years, money that could be invested in human services, public schools, and our roads. I oppose this bill because I believe it would disproportionately benefit corporations and the state's top earners, while we have significant unmet needs in our behavioral health system and our public schools. Not to mention, most Virginians would see very little tax relief with over half the taxpayers getting a maximum of $50 and less in most cases. And if you're working on minimum wage, you'll get absolutely nothing. I much prefer to see a targeted tax relief to those who need it the most by making the Earned Income Tax Credit fully refundable, aimed at benefiting low-income working families, and direct the rest of the surplus to funding our schools and our behavioral health services. On book banning, House Republicans advanced bills this week to require public schools, parents, and librarians to make recommendations to the General Assembly, the Department of Education, and the school boards on an adoption of policies for censorship of library materials. They also passed a bill to require school principals to electronically catalog all printed and audiovisual materials in school libraries, identify whether the item contains graphic sexual content, and make that catalog available to parents. It would also direct schools to permit parents to restrict their child's access to any item that contains graphic sexual content and allow parents to request a graphic sexual content notation for any item. I oppose these bills. As a parent with kids in Arlington Public Schools, I already know that our school divisions are existing procedures that give parents significant opportunity to know and object to the books in the libraries. This is a solution in search of a problem. Finally, the Republican-led House also passed several bills to weaken voting laws in Virginia. Delegates voted along party lines to ban ballot drop boxes and shorten the period of voting early in person to 2 weeks. 2 years ago, Virginia repealed its voter photo ID law, made ballot drop-off boxes permanent, opened up 45 days of no-excuse absentee voting, and passed its own Voting Rights Act, a first in the South. We went from the second hardest state to vote to the 11th easiest. Why some would want to roll back voting rights, making it harder for people to vote and weakening our democracy, is a mystery. Fortunately, this week in the House was more about theater than actually getting anything done. These votes in the House, especially on voting rights and banning books in schools, are more symbolic votes, as these bills will meet a swift end in the Democratic-controlled Virginia Senate. Additionally, I fully expect the Senate budget will seek to meet unmet funding needs for behavioral health and supporting our public schools, a far better approach and more fiscally responsible than the Governor Youngkin's approach that rewards his corporations and the highest income earners. Well, that's all the time I have for this week. If you have a question or comment, please feel free to call, email, or visit my office in Richmond during session. In the meantime, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you back here next week.